Hey guys, what's up? I'm getting started. I think you should be able to hear me now. I'm sort of just like setting up as I'm starting. Right now I got my chat going. All right, so it's on the screen and it looks like that's good. Just gonna update my little message here. I mean, this is not important, but I don't know. I'm just OCD like this, so gonna do that. So updated the little text message thing, and then I'm gonna move on. I guess I should announce that I'm streaming to the server, so I'm gonna do that right now. Hung, what's up? Actually, I want to know, is Hung the right way to pronounce that name? I know Nguyen. Hung Nguyen. Let me see. Is it Hung like, or is it who? Is it whom? Hung Nguyen. There's so many Hung Nguyen's. Hung Nguyen? Hung Nguyen? Alright. Never mind. I can't find a video with anybody named uh, with Hung. Bruh. Nguyen. Of course you're Vietnamese. Like, there's not a single race in the world that uses Nguyen as their as their last name. It's all Vietnamese. Bruh, I know. I know. All right, so I'm gonna I'm gonna go into to YouTube channel right now and just go over to some comments. So, oops, don't want to show too much of that. All right, so I'm gonna go into YouTube first. Let's go into YouTube and see what's up. Because I've been replying to people. Okay. Some people have been replying, and I haven't quite replied to Victoria, so let's go. All right. So here we have, thank you so much for the walkthrough, May 2022. Reading, understanding the passage instead of the questions first was big game changer. Definitely using the real. Oh, Victoria, you have such specific questions. So good, man. Okay, so Victoria is just like killing it with these questions. All right. Um, so I'm gonna just answer this really quickly. Um, Glad to hear the strategy is working for you, and just want to really quickly reply. By the way, guys, if you are watching, welcome to the stream, and let me know what questions you have. I'll be able to answer any questions, in due time when I get through some of these other comments that have been piling up. Do you recommend the same practice? Okay, so the thing is, once you've actually gone over a whole test, right, and um, and you feel like you know what the right answer is, I think the temptation that everyone falls to is, oh, okay, I reviewed it, I know it. But but really, many students are pretty terrible at drawing lessons out from their mistakes. You're not really done with a test until you can draw out lessons from every single question that you got right. Every single question that you got wrong, and also every single question that you got right, but you weren't high confidence on. So you want to have a lesson for every single one. And sometimes it's too many lessons per packet. So you want to go back and review some of those old tests to see how well you did. When I was studying for the LSAT, I got a 173 out of 180. Okay, that is the Harvard median score. So 173 out of 180. And I got that in 1 month. Okay, I studied for it for 1 month. And I I was able to get the 173 out of 180 partly because I kept reviewing old tests. I don't just finish off a test as soon as I'm just because I read it once and I solved it once and I heard the answers once, that doesn't mean I'm done. I'm only done when I can go back and I'm 100% mastered it, right? So that is a really important concept that I think Victoria's hitting on right now. After she finishes the walkthrough for studying, do you recommend doing the same practice test on your own? Once you've actually once you've actually taken a test, taken a passage, Hung, you're asking so many questions. I'll be right back. I'll be right with you after I finish off these comments, okay? Once you've actually solved the passage, next step is to review the answers and why they're right. Why they're right and wrong. Figure out why they're right and wrong, and then decide what you can change to in your process to get it right next time. At this point, most kids think okay. At this point, I would guess that about 80% of kids think they're done, but only 20% proceed to draw out a lesson from every single question, draw a lesson from their mistakes, from each of their mistakes, and concretely define a change that they can implement into their process to get it right next time. Okay, so then after this, what happens is, but even here, about 80% kids, the remaining kids probably think they're done. Only 20% would proceed to then keep their old tests, old passages, and review them periodically to see if they really mastered everything they supposedly learned. I recommend being in the latter group, the 20% of the 20%. All right, the 4%. That not only draws out concrete lessons, but follows up to see to check for mastery. Okay. Simultaneously, you should also be reviewing, practicing on new materials. So, concurrent with, I don't want to be too fancy, but I'm just trying to say something. But whatever. You should also be practicing on new materials. 2022 and 2021 QASs are great for practice. All right, I'm gonna actually save this answer because it's such a good question that I think not a lot of kids ask, but it's so important. So I'm seeing Hung and working studies questions right now in the chat. I just want to deal with this thing real quick, and then I'll be right back. Okay. General mindset. Is this general mindset or is this reading score? Is this general mindset reading score? I'm gonna put it under general. All right. Okay, and then I'm just gonna. All right, so that's the. How to review. All right, so that's my quick reply to that one. So yeah, so just to recap that, this is based on what I actually do. When I study for the LSAT, okay, for law school, I got a 173 for the Harvard median, 173 out of 180. I got it in 1 month. I studied from 9 to 4 p.m. every day for 1 month, Monday through Friday only. I socialized and I got drunk and I had fun with the other 2 days. While living out in a guest house in a hostel in Jeju Island. That was my study strategy. And the way that I actually did the review is I did not finish a test once. I finished the test multiple times, but I went back to it to make sure that I actually truly mastered the things that I thought I mastered. Okay, people think they understand something. People think they understand it when they hear it once. You do not understand it when you hear it once. People think they understand it when they hear it once and they create a concrete plan and then they actually try to implement that plan. Okay, that's much better than just hearing it once. Way better than hearing it once, but that's still not mastering it. You only know if you mastered it when you can come back to the same problem over and over and get it 100% right. All right, so that's super important for the learning process. Okay, Hong is asking this question about why I'm not solving the SAT exams because I've solved them all. I've solved all of them. Do I have any advice for international students for verbal? I do have. Yes. Prioritize. If I'm just gonna say some really vague thing because you're asking me a very vague question, but the quick answer is, hey, if you're international and you're strong on science, finish the 3 science passages in 35 minutes. And then go to the other 2 passages in 30 minutes. That's all I can say right now. But if you have more specific questions, I can answer you. I can answer you in more detail. Like Victoria is asking a really specific question, and so that's why I can give her a really long and specific answer because she's asking a really good question. So if you do the same thing, I could be more helpful to you. All right, going back to working study. Working study is asking. He's in a desperate spot right now. Don't know what to do to improve. No other chances. Erica Meltzer, I heard, is not very good for reading. How can you just solve by reading? Oh, sorry, I just got confused. Working study and Hung are saying the same thing. Are kind of they got mixed up. Okay, just let's start with Hung's question. So you read Erica Meltzer for reading. Erica Meltzer, I heard, was not the best for reading. Okay, that's what I heard. Erica Meltzer is solid for writing, though. You don't understand how to approach the SAT reading. Hung, have you seen some of my previous SAT streams? The way that I approach it is basically, this is basically the strategy. In fact, I'm going to pull up my FAQ over here while talking just so you understand, so you can actually read it while I'm also saying it. Okay? Hang on, where's my strategy question? Interesting. What happened to my? Oh, this is the improving my. I see. I reorganized this, and now I am. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I'm still getting used to the way I organize it. What do you mean your strategy? This is for question strategy or overall test. Overall test. Okay, so here is the way I solve the test. Okay, I'm not gonna say 100% that this is the right solution. This is the right strategy for every student. Okay, some students, I am very sure that you are going to make a huge jump in your reading score if you just switch your strategy. Some students, you might actually harm yourself. I think it tends to be students who have prepared a lot, okay, and who generally are trying at school. They're not super lazy at school. They've been reading and stuff, but they haven't really practiced test taking very much, and also they've been, for every test that takes some reading, that requires some reading, you've been doing the sort of question first approach since you were like in middle school. I think those kids tend to jump a lot when they switch over to my strategy. Okay, but some kids who might not improve from my strategy, I think, tend to be students who are scoring less than 650 on the EBRW. Okay, in particular, especially if you're scoring less than 600, you might not see a huge improvement, especially not in the very beginning. Okay, it might be really hard to improve your score just from switching to my strategy. I do think my strategy is better for the long term, because if you want to get 800, it's honestly so much easier to get 800 with my strategy, I think, objectively. But there are some other ways. This is not the only strategy. That said, here's my strategy: read the passage to remember what it says. Which means sometimes you're going to read slower than you think you should. You're trying to remember what it says. You're not trying to remember all the details. You're just trying to remember the main sort of like sections and roughly how these sections are different from each other. So that, in the top left of the page, you can be like, okay, that's just the background. Okay? And then the middle left of the page, oh, that's the potential impact, significance. Bottom left of the page, oh, that's the study design, or that's the experiment design. Top right of the page, that's still experiment design. Middle right of the page, that's results. Bottom right of the page, that's controversies and contrary opinions and future research. But you should be able to like section it off, right? And some of the easy passages are very easy to section because they're very well organized. The paragraphs, every single paragraph has a new section. Hard passages are not very easy to section, so it's not easy to get a map of the passage. But you want to build that map of the passage by reading the passage to understand what it says. The second thing is then you read the question stem, and what do you do with the question stem? You don't go straight into the answer choices. You just read the question stem, and using the map of the passage, you're like, what is the answer if you remember it? And if you don't remember it, you can still remember where is the answer, right? Where is the answer? Is it the top left? Is it the bottom left? Is it the top right? Or is it, I don't freaking know where it is, okay? You should use the map of the passage to predict the question. Use the map of the passage, double check the part of the passage you're supposed to look at, and then come back to the question stem and then predict the answer. Okay? After that, if and only if you cannot get the right answer right away from the prediction, then you use process elimination. Process elimination is not the default strategy, at least not my strategy. Okay? So people always tell you to read the question first. That's not my strategy. Now, going back to Hung, you see the way I do it. How do you solve just by reading? I think you might be now asking this other question, and I'm going to pull it up on my screen so that I can at least, you can actually read along while I'm talking about it. Okay. Oh, no, that's kind of the harder one. Let me see. Okay, I'm still sort of getting used to my new organization for this FAQs. Okay, because there's so many questions now. Okay, I'm taking SAT for the first time on May 7th. I want to know if there's any reading to use to finish literature and scientific passages fast. My literature and science, that's 4 out of 5, right? So I decided to just talk about all of it. Here we go. Let me see. Okay, this is the part. But what if you can't predict the paragraphs like I just did, right? What if you can't like read and predict what's happening? That means you're weak on the genre conventions, okay? That means when you're reading a science passage, you have no idea what's typical of the genre of science research to come out. So you don't have a pre-existing set of expectations for what you're supposed to be looking for. So how do you increase your ability to predict the kinds of passages that are coming out? You should probably just read a lot of science passages, first of all. So go ahead and go and practice that. But it might help to at least know in some fashion that there are some general ideas that you can work with, that there are genre conventions that really will help you with understanding what to look for, what to be predicting, okay, anticipating when you are reading a science passage. So here's a quick cheat sheet. For literature, you should always be looking for conflict resolution. For literature, you should always be looking for character motivations and how they feel, what their attitudes may be. In fact, I might have narrowed. Okay. You know what? Actually, I could probably add to this. I'm just going to add the word attitude. I'm going to keep. Yeah, this is tricky because a narrator can be a character and a character can be a narrator, but I'm just going to keep it like this for now. Setting changes. Okay. I'm going to add the word changes. But these are some ideas that you really should be like aware of in advance, right? And you should have already seen many different types of conflict resolutions in previous literature. You should have seen, different types of character motivations in previous literature. You should have seen different types of setting changes in previous literature classes, right? And you should have seen, different points of view, tone, and attitudes, that were expressed to different literature. The more literature you read, the better you're going to be at this, right? So, but you should know the genre conventions. You should be able to see them so that when you're reading a science or literature passage, or specifically a literary fiction passage, you know when it says, Johnny was a popular, well-liked kid. And that's the first sentence of that passage. As a good literature reader, you will automatically think, okay, what's the problem? You're looking for a conflict. And then he says, Jenny was also popular, well-liked, blah, 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 charming, kind, So Johnny and Jenny. So now what's the problem, right? When you are reading literature and you're a good literature reader, you kind of know Johnny, Jenny, okay, everything's too good right now. What's the problem? You're looking for that problem. Okay, if you're not looking for that problem, you're not reading very efficiently. And why are you not looking for the problem in the first place is because you don't know the genre conventions of literature or of literary fiction. Get used to them, learn them. History is the same, okay, and science is the same. And once you do this, you will get better at reading. And once you get better at reading, you'll be able to get a better map of the passage. Once you get a better map of the passage, you'll be able to do predictions from the question stem a lot better. And then once you can do that, you can minimize the amount of process elimination that you're doing. Okay, so now I'm looking at the next question here. Working studies in a deaf spot. Not sure how to improve. Consistently making 5 to 7. Tips to get them down. I don't know how to bring it down. Honestly, 5 to 7 is really for writing is very variable because are you the kind of student that's getting like primarily grammar at sentence level questions wrong, or are you getting more of the paragraph level questions wrong where you have to structure the ideas, transition, add or delete and stuff like that? Those are, honestly, people have very different like sort of weaknesses when they're in the writing, so it's hard to just generalize based on 4 to 7. I think if I were you at a general level, the first thing I would do is I would make a compilation record of all of my past writing mistakes, and I would just start actually sorting them out, and being like, okay, where's my actual consistent weaknesses, and try to go really deep into it, because a lot of people's writing explanations are very facile. They're very like blasé, they sort of like say, oh, that's the answer, but a lot of times it's not as black and white as people are saying. So you want to really get multiple sources of information. Like if you can pay for a source of information, right? If you can get like a tutor who can actually like give you a very, very specific explanation, then that's the best. But if you can't, right, just get multiple sources of information to figure out like, how can I understand like 100% what's going on, because just because you understand subject-verb agreement, just because you understand verb tense doesn't necessarily mean you're going to understand question 14, because question 14 is using subject-verb agreement. Question 14 is using verb tense, but did you see it? Did you see it? Or are you just going for that? Are you just listening to that one person who's saying, oh, yeah, just choose the shortest answer? It's like, okay, I guess that's the shortest answer. But what about the subject-verb agreement? Did you see it? Right? Did you see how the subject-verb agreement is helping with that? Or maybe not subject-verb agreement because that's a little bit maybe too explicit, but like, how about like the subject-verb focus? Did you see how the subject-verb focus is helping with that? Okay? Did you see how the verb tense is helping with that? Like, or are you just choosing it because it's the shortest answer? If you're choosing it because it's the shortest answer, yeah, you might get that one correct, but are you going to get the other ones correct? So your writing score gets very unstable because it's based on very facile, very simplistic explanations. So make sure you're fully learning from every single question. Okay, make a compilation of all your errors and make sure you're fully learning. Do not be satisfied with do not be satisfied with an answer choice that gets you like 80% sure or 90% sure or even 95% sure. You need to be 100% sure that this is the absolutely correct answer and it makes absolute sense. It makes as much sense as a math answer. Okay? Grammar questions, just because a couple of them are a little bit fuzzy, a little bit on the gray side, just because one or two of them are really on the gray side does not necessarily mean that if when you make 12 mistakes that all 12 of them are great. No. Be exceedingly stringent with yourself. Just like with math, be like, does it make 100% sense to me? Okay? Only then are you done. So that's my general advice. All right. I'm slowly reading down. I'm making my way through this chat. Give me a sec. By the way, I have about 15 more minutes before I have to go, so I can't be here too much longer. Just looking at consistently making. All right. So Daniel, welcome to the stream. You're here. 13 days. 12 till the SAT. I'm assuming you're talking about the August SAT. Read, and after this, I have no idea for the story I just read. Yeah. So Hung, by the way, if you read and you answer the questions, that's good. And if hopefully you have the strategies in place to get fewer mistakes, when you are reading, but you don't fully understand. But after that, you should go back and reread it and then build out a map of the passage. That is the practice for the next passage, okay? The way to get better at a literature passage is not to look at the 4 questions that you got wrong and be like, oh, I guess that's why it's right, and then you're done. No. The questions were not the problem, okay? The reason you got the 4 questions wrong is that's not the only thing. You probably wasted a lot of time on the other 6 questions, and you felt low confidence that whole time, and that lack of confidence affected the other 4 passages. So go back, reread the passage, and figure out how to read it better and how to map it better so that you don't get screwed by a passage like that next time. Learn from the passage itself, not just the answer choices. It's like if you are solving math problems and you only look at A, B, C, D. No, you have to look at the description of the equations and the problem up front. You have to look at both sides. Okay, why don't people do the same thing with reading? Why do people only obsess about the questions when it's suddenly the reading test? I have no idea. It's such a bad way of improving your reading. If you want to improve your reading, learn to map the damn thing by rereading the passage over and over until you fully understand the passage. Then you can map it. Okay? Reread the passage. Transitions and commas. Is reading in 4 minutes and answering in 7 minutes too good? I don't know what that means. What is too good? You want to. There's no one answer for every passage. Just the main thing is that for me, for the easy passages, it usually takes me about the same amount of time to read as it takes to finish the passage. It takes me about the same amount of time to read as it takes to solve the questions. So it'd be like 4.5 and 4.5, and I'll be at 9 minutes. Okay, it's not usually like 5 minutes and then 3 minutes. That's crazy. For the harder passages, it'll be something like 5 minutes and 10 minutes, right? It can be up to 2 times as much time for the hard passages. But that's, and every once in a while, the passage is really hard, but the questions are really easy. But even then, it's still like 6.6. It's not like 6.4. So there's no one size fits all for every passage. The main thing the most important skill is not to predefine. I still give a guideline, okay, especially to international students and kids who are really good at science but not really good at the other things. I give them a guideline of being like, hey, try to hit 35 minutes, all right, hit 3 passages in 35 minutes. But there's a whole context around that, okay? I'm not going to explain all that right now. But the more fundamental skill, and the skill that's going to last for a long time, is the skill of being like, hey, I looked at this question stem, I'm fucking confused. I looked at the answer choices, I'm not very confident. At that moment, you have two voices that are going to speak to you. This little perfectionistic voice, okay? That's like, hey, spend 2 more minutes. Hey, who cares how much time it takes? It's just spend more time and get this correct. And then you have this other voice that's telling you, and it's going to be Saul's voice, really. Bruh, are you going to waste 2 fucking minutes on this? And you have to learn to listen to my voice. Just, you're low confidence anyway. You spend 2 more minutes, the likelihood of you getting this one correct, it only goes up like 20 more percent, you know? So you had like a 20% chance of getting it right. Now you're at a 40% or 50% chance of getting this right. After 2 more minutes, move the fuck on. Move on. If you can do this, if you can do this consistently, all of your time management problems will get solved. Because now you're gonna end the test at 58 minutes or 60 minutes, and then you can go back to the 8 questions or the 10 questions that you had low confidence and medium confidence on, and then you can tackle all the medium confidence questions first. You know, all your time management problems will get solved with just this one habit. So then you don't really have to worry that much. Oh, 4 minutes, 7 minutes. I mean, there are contexts in which it's useful to talk about the time it takes, but it's most beneficial when we can actually talk about a specific passage, not just generally talking. But there are some patterns I can generalize. Like, yeah, hard passages, it'll be like maybe 6 minutes, 9 minutes, right? Something like that. Or, for a total of 15 minutes. Easier passages, maybe like 4.5 minutes, 5 minutes, 9.5 minutes, something like that. That's kind of the range that I'm working with. Okay. I almost never read less than 4 minutes. That almost never happens. I take my time. Many of you students are reading at 4 minutes consistently or less than 4 minutes. Okay, you read a lot faster than me. You read, quote unquote, read a lot faster than me, but your maps are garbage. When you go to the question stem, you're like, what the hell is this talking about? And then now you have to reread the passage just to figure out what the question is talking about. Okay, so that's your choice, obviously, but I would say that's not very efficient. 7 minutes for. You hate English grammar. I mean, just to be an academic about this, in a world without these grammar rules, reading and writing becomes extremely hard. It becomes more difficult to read people. And when it becomes more difficult to read people, you know what happens? The lack of knowledge, the knowledge transmission gets slower. The world, I know it's gonna sound crazy, but kind of like overblown, but I'm gonna say this. The technological advancements in this world, all of the progress that we see, a lot of that is due to having regularized grammar, man. Because people can communicate their intellectual ideas, their academic ideas, their research ideas, their exploratory ideas much cleaner with a world where a grammar is regulated and clean and clear and very logical. Not all languages have the same logical concision of English grammar. The reason is because these other countries, they're only industrializing and they're sort of mechanizing and they're modernizing much later than the English language, the English-speaking countries, which began with the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century, right? You might think that the Industrial Revolution and Ernest Hemingway are not connected. They are connected. As society modernizes and as things get towards, as people as society globalizes, people need to communicate with each other. There's a need for more efficient communication, and grammar does that role. I'm trying to make it sound as awesome and sexy to you as possible because it makes a huge difference when people have a very codified way of communicating with each other. Now I can take my extremely complex ideas about like quantum physics or about semiconductor construction, and I can communicate them across languages even sometimes, but across cultures, across people, and people understand because it's efficient. Communication is efficient. Not all languages are as efficient as English grammar. If you study other languages, there are other languages where the grammar is still kind of in the middle of development. Like every grammar is in the middle of development all the time, but English has already become efficient in a way that not all languages have. So I think it's actually good to be learning grammar. At some point, though, obviously, you get to the point where you become a grammar Nazi, where where we're just arguing about like semicolons versus dashes, and it's not that useful. That's just being fancy. Maybe it's useful if you're like a poet or like a novelist, but it's not super. So you don't really need to get to that level. But like the SAT is not really about that level. The SAT is more about the level of like academic fluency. So SAT grammar is just like everyone. If you want to participate in the global conversation about the things that are important about crises, about the environmental crises, about geopolitical crises, about semiconductor chip manufacturing, about biochemical manufacturing. If you want to participate in that conversation, you better up your grammar, bro. You gotta get it. You gotta get up to it. You gotta get up to speed because this is just a more efficient communication. All right, that's my little spiel. That's my little defense. That's Saul's the grammar manifesto. Okay, this is my freaking defense, my apology for for grammar, for modern grammar. Apology meaning defense in a historical traditional sense. Anyway, wow, I wasn't expecting to say all that, but hey, fun times. Do you have your own clock? Do you do it all mentally? Well, so you want to start with it. So let's use a runner example. When you are a beginning runner, you use a pace. You use a pacer. Is it pacer the right word? I kind of forgot. But you use an app nowadays to like keep track of your pace. Okay, and you keep running, and you notice when you're a beginner, like, oh my god, I'm going really fast, and like suddenly like it keeps going, like my pace keeps going up, or my pace keeps going down, I guess. I'm trying to keep, like, let's say I'm a beginning runner. I'm trying to keep like a 6-minute kilometer. I'm not a miles thinker. I'm gonna use kilometers, but I'm like a 6-minute kilometer, right? But then I keep going down to 5:30 and then back to 6:30, and I keep bouncing back and forth. But what happens as you become a more advanced beginner? What happens is, 6-minute kilometer feels like this. There's a feeling of a 6-minute kilometer, and because I've been constantly fixing my pace to match 6 minutes, now I know what it feels like, right? That's my internal clock. Then I drop down to like 5:30. This is what 5:30 feels like. Then I drop down to 5. This is what 5 feels like. So then at some point, I become such an advanced runner. If you tell me a pace, I can just feel it and I can just match it, right? And that's the same thing with the SAT. At first, you want to have basically a constant clock telling you, okay, I'm fast, I'm slow. This is 30 seconds. This is what 30 seconds feels like. Okay, this is what 15 seconds feels like. This is what 1 minute and 30 seconds feels. This is what 2 minutes and 30 feels like, right? You want to know what every question feels like, the time that you spend on every question feels like. But as you do a lot of tests, you'll learn, oh shit, I'm taking way too much time. I'm at 2:30 right now. This feels like 2:30. I'm aiming at 1:30, and so you no longer really need the clock at that point. But but running is much more regular than, and test taking is very, very irregular. So you can't fully rely on an internal clock, which is why you should still always be using the clock. I would recommend having your own like little stopwatch that you can use in the classroom. Some silent one that doesn't break the College Board rules. But if you're good with analog clocks the American schools all have the same freaking clock. It's the same black and white clock. If you're used to that clock, you can just use that clock. I would say, Provenance, should you bubble an answer to a question before moving on? And my answer is yes. But I would bubble it very lightly. And I would circle the question on my test packet as well so that I don't forget about it, and then I'll come back. Now, why is it better to bubble lightly than not to bubble at all? The first is just as a pure self-preservation mechanism. Like, what if you run out of time, man? What if you run out of time and, you can't come back? And at least you have some answer. You're guessing on something, okay? The second thing is that it actually crystallizes your own thoughts to your future self. So like, let's say it's 8:45 a.m. That was question 42 or question 32 or whatever, right? I question 32. I was very iffy on it. I was stuck between B and C, and I just lightly bubble B. Okay. Well, the fact that I lightly bubble B is the crystallization. That's the output of all of the thinking that I could do at 8:45. That is the best that I could do at 8:45. But now it's like 9:05, and I'm coming back to question 32. 9:05 is 20 minutes later, dude. Like, it's a long time. Now, I want at the 9:05 time point, I really want to know as much information as possible in as dense a manner as possible, right? I want to have as much information as possible as quickly as possible. And that choice of B is a lot of information to me. The fact that I chose B is a lot of information to me, okay? It's not supposed to bias me towards choosing B. It's just supposed to be information. I was like, okay, 20 minutes ago I thought B was the correct answer. And that's because I was thinking this and this and this. Okay. But now I'm rereading the question stem, and now I'm noticing a different phrase. Now I'm noticing a different phrase that I didn't really emphasize the first time that I chose B. I don't think it's B anymore, because my original reasoning for B wasn't this, right? And so that's just additional information. So when you come back to it, you can kind of pick up where you left off instead of leaving it blank, where you come back and it's like, oh shit, it's empty. Like, I gotta think all over, And I think that's an experience that you guys can all test this experience right now. Like, you can literally, after the stream ends, you could just take a practice test and see if what I'm saying holds true. But I think that's basically the big advantage of filling it in. You can cover your ass so that in case you run out of time, you still have a bubbled. And when you come back, it's information for you. Oh, that's what I was thinking at the time. Okay. Oh, I forgot the other obvious one is sometimes when you try to skip the bubbling, you end up staggering the bubbles in the bubble sheet. So you try to skip 32, but then you actually when you're solving 33, you put it into 32 column, the 32 row. So yeah, when you lightly bubble, it avoids that staggering issue. Okay, now final question from Hung. Can I give another video to answer? Hung, I cannot. That's not currently on my. That's not my plan. Okay. So what I will do is I'll be talking more strategy. But if you have questions, you can ask questions specifically to the ones that you can't solve on your own. Okay, so if you go to, I don't know, like October 2022 or whatever, October 2021, and you look at my walkthrough and you still don't understand question 3 and 9 or whatever, then go ahead and do that. I am not going to be the tutor for all of YouTube. That is an insane amount of work. I'm not going to do that, but I will be, answering quick questions. I can do that. So, your question, Hung, I just want you to understand this. Your question, can you give more video about SAT 2016, 2022? Try to answer in detail. This is really helpful. That question took you how long to type? Maybe 25 seconds? Do you know how long it would take me to do that? That would take me like 70 hours at least. It would take me so much time for your 25 seconds. It would be insane. Now, I have other ways that I intend to be helpful for I have other things that I'm cooking up. Okay, like basically all of the stuff that I'm talking about in office hours. I'm just gonna try to package them into nice, better videos that people can actually watch in a short period without having to ask me questions in the first place. I'm trying to come out with good content, so I'm gonna be doing that. I also think I probably will mess around with TikTok this fall. Yeah, so I don't think I'll be doing that. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm not fully settled on what I'm gonna be producing in the next couple months, but I'm gonna come out with my plan as soon as possible, because I just came off a very intense summer. So anyway, that's it for me, guys. I gotta go. It is 12 o'clock. I do have to go. How do you pick out wrong words in each answer choice? Yo, War, that's a very broad question, and all I can say is have good logical reasoning skills. That's all I can say right now. No, it's a very broad question. All right, guys. I'm gonna go. I have to have my lunch and I need to proceed with my day. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, take care and keep on growing. I'll see you guys.